No matter where you are in your guitar journey, the lesson we're diving into today is a game changer for your solos and creative guitar playing. It's something many of us overlook or we search for other answers, and sometimes totally miss it without even realizing it. Simply put, it's about simplifying your guitar playing in order to sound better. Let me break it down. As guitarists, we lean heavily on scales and arpeggios when soloing. And that makes sense. Scales give us the roadmap and correct notes in a key. But it's funny, just because a scale contains all the correct notes doesn't mean we should use all of the notes at all times in our solos. When we do use all the notes that we know and in all positions, we end up sounding less musical, more robotic, and downright scaly. Yes, scales show us the correct or the good sounding note options, but we need to learn to restrict ourselves by using constraints in order to build stronger phrases and stronger solos. You could call this type of practice a limitation style of practice. Why should you listen to me? Well, I'm Daniel Seraph, and I'm a professional performing guitarist and guitar coach. I've taught over 25,000 guitar lessons since 2007. And I pride myself on helping intermediate guitarists jump over those pesky guitar plateaus and play creatively all over the guitar neck with confidence. Over the years, I have transcribed for myself and my students lots and lots of licks and solos from the great masters. They often make us think that they are playing with much more complexity than they actually are. This can send students down the path of the YouTube black hole, and it's where you can get lost searching for the secret scales, arpeggios, substitutions, and all the other kind of secret concepts of the masters. I'm here to tell you that from studying for over 25 years, the greats are mostly just playing pentatonic and 7-note major scales with the modes. If you're talking about rock, blues, funk, and other straightforward and popular American styles, I'm not saying jazz, fusion, or modern jazz. The rest of it's not rocket science. In fact, the most important part is the way that these masters play these concepts, and it's different from the average and intermediate guitarists. So in order to work on the most important ingredients, let's simplify the number of notes we allow ourselves to play for this lesson. Let's use a basic 1-octave diagonal major pentatonic scale shape today. This is my favorite way to access the pentatonics. These diagonals are so portable and instantly more musical than the boxes. This is a total of just 5 notes, giving us the full major pentatonic scale in the small 2-string position. I've done a similar lesson in minor pentatonic, so let's today play over a classic progression in the key of A major. And that is going to be in the style of The Weight by the band. Now, this song is essentially a 1, 3 minor, 4, back to 1. And so that's going to be A major, C sharp minor, D, back to A. As with all my lessons, you can grab this backing track and all of my diagrams from this lesson at the link below. What I notice many times when I watch students play or critique their practice sessions is that they turn on a backing track and just start noodling and playing immediately. It's like the 2 main practice activities for intermediate guitarists are mindlessly practicing scales up and down or just noodling aimlessly over tracks. And I am here to tell you and let you know that there are better ways and more effective ways. So let's apply the idea of less is more. My first recommendation is to actually listen to what the band is doing before you start playing. Tune into the drum part. Notice how the kick and the snare are interacting. 2, 3, 4. So kicks are on beats 1 and 3, and the snares are on beats 2 and 4. And so once you kind of dial in to the kick and snare, what's going on with the cymbals? Hi-hats or ride cymbals? In this particular groove, it's just hi-hats. Basically just playing 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So after that, you say, how is the bass lining up with the drums? Is it grooving right along? Is it just sticking to the groove? Is it popping out and playing fancier? Now, are there keys or is there a rhythm guitar? In this one, we just have a little groovy guitar parts going on, just playing some chords, kind of Motown-esque. And this all creates the feel of the track, which we should be deepening our awareness of and how we're gonna play with it. So I even challenge you to try and count out loud with the track before playing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, or eights. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Make your counting sound like music. So on top of the rhythm and the groove, we have the harmony, right? Which we already talked about. The chords. That 1, 1, 3, 4, back to 1. So listen and see what those parts are doing. So in this track, they're moving to the next chord every 2 beats. All right, so A, C sharp, D, A. And that A comes a little early coming back. Okay, so now that we are a bit more tuned into the music, you know, that's what you should be doing. Rather than just noodling over top with no rhythmic connection or paying attention to the chords, let's go ahead and start playing a bit. Think about your favorite solos. If you're like me, you absolutely love cats like David Gilmour, Jeff Beck, Derek Trucks, and many other players who play more melodic passages rather than just shred and play a bunch of notes up and down. Let's first try a little something. I want you to play a line like this, and then I want you to take your hand off the guitar. This is creating space in the music. I've actually had people tell me that this is stupid, but this is honestly the only way I've found to get people to actually put some musical space inside of their phrasing. Take your hand off the guitar. Take your fretting hand off the guitar. Let me play one more time. Now you take a little bit. You can have some space to play also. I just love how much space there's going on here. You take it. So this actually allows the listener to process what you just played. And you can fill in on those spaces. Let me do one more. You got it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay, so now that we have a bit more space in our playing, notice that right away I am applying some tools of decoration. And even though we're just playing 5 different notes here in the diagonal major pentatonic, you can decorate like crazy. The 5 tools of decoration that I love are slides, hammer-ons, pull-offs, and vibrato, and a little bit of bends. And these 5 are essential for making scales sound more musical. So here is a great idea for a practice exercise. Try limiting yourself to only one of these techniques at a time. So for practice, if I force myself to play only slides for a bit, I end up growing immensely in that particular technique, just from that small practice constraint or limitation. Let me show you. Cheat a little bit there was a pull off there. So I end up finding different approaches that I might not take if I had no rules or limitations to play with. One really cool thing you can do is slide from outside of the scale. This is tough if you don't know your scales very well, but give it a try anyway. I will say that mistakes are welcome when you're practicing creative guitar. Perfect practice does not apply here. So if you just slide from 1/2 step below any of the notes in the scale, you'll have this nice little grace note that sounds really musical and fantastic. It definitely gives some great color to an otherwise boring sounding note. So it's easy to lose sight of the scale, so don't let those little 1/2 step slides confuse you. So you could even try doubling them. That's something that I don't hear intermediates play enough. Let's try another technique. You can feel free to jump in those spaces. I know that you love these. The hammer-on, you can really hammer on any note. You just play the lower note and then hammer onto the higher note. It's really pretty straightforward. And even just staying in the scale, how many options do we have to hammer? You can hammer on the way up and on the way back down as well. And a pro tip that I want to encourage is that you want to try and vary the speed of your hammers. Hammers can be really slow, meaning you might play a note, wait a long time, then hammer way later. Or really fast, or anywhere in between. But I frequently run into intermediate guitarists that are on the plateau that have kind of one default kind of speed for all of these techniques. If you're connected to the rhythm, you'll actually realize that there are lots of rhythmically awesome ways to play these decorations. And this is a kind of a major difference from the intermediates versus the masters. So I wanted to take a moment to introduce the sponsor of this video, the diagonal pentatonic method. If you're enjoying this lesson, I wanted to let you know that I have a full course on the diagonal pentatonic method. This was literally the most groundbreaking approach to pentatonics that I have ever learned. It helped me so much that I turned it into an entire method for learning both major and minor pentatonic scales across the entire guitar neck. You get studio quality backing tracks, over 106 interactive tabs to play along with, licks from some of my favorite guitar players, and exercises that will actually help you turn your scales into music. Go ahead and click the link below or head to my site and use the code MAJORDOUBT to get 20% off today. We can't forget pull-offs. So you'll notice I've been putting little tastes of vibrato in by default the whole time. I just can't help it. And vibrato is amazing and one of the most unique things about your guitar playing. Think about your vibrato speed and depth. This is another common weakness, is that in intermediate guitar players, I hear people just have kind of like one default speed and depth. And honestly, sometimes it sounds kind of like nervous, anxious, and kind of fast sounding. And many times I also notice that intermediate guitar players will have a bit of sour kind of sounding vibrato because they press too hard down into the wood and don't play the vibrato from a neutral and relaxed place. And instead it ends up sounding kind of slightly bent out of tune all the time, not in the good way. So try to make sure that you're approaching vibrato in an intentional way, and don't bend the note out of tune before you're ready to actually do the wiggle. And I just want you to think about that vibrato. Think about playing vibrato more slowly. You could go slow and wide. You could go slow and thin, fast and wide, or fast and thin. There are lots of variations. And all of the varieties in between allow you to sound more expressive and more music. So lastly, let's talk about bends. The middle note of the 3-note set of this kind of diagonal pentatonic is the best and most forgiving bend. So you can go ahead and try bends on each one of the notes. But one of the coolest bends is definitely that one. And then another bend that I like to use, it's similar to the half-step slide. If you know where the scale is, you can play, go for the note of the scale, you just play that note, scoop back down a fret, and you can get these really cool half-step bends. Now, I challenge you to apply different limitations or constraints to your playing. So don't just go to practice and, noodle around. What I would recommend is you don't have to do this for your entire practice session, but even 5 to 10 minutes over a couple of backing tracks will do wonders for your guitar soloing creativity. Now that you're feeling more confident in your creative guitar soloing, watch this video next.